This conference will now be recorded.
Oh, lovely. Just for me, right?
So all the conspiracy theorists can, you didn't miss anything. Well, you missed Bill, so you missed one thing.
My name is Eva Rivero, Wyckoff, and I live at 758 Springfield. I'm in favor of this local law, but I have a huge question.
Okay.
As pertains to section 3, where it says a group retail business shall not exceed a total of 40,000 square feet in all buildings that can constitute the use. That's kind of nebulous. So you could end up with one building with multiple businesses in it that totals 40,000 square feet, which is roughly, because I Googled it and I used AI, that's a big box store. And it's much larger than that dollar store that was proposed, is it not? Right? Right. So I think the wording needs to be adjusted or refined so that we don't end up with a single building, maybe to say that none of them should exceed 10,000 square feet or none of them should exceed 8,000 square feet. I don't know how to do that.
Okay.
But I think it needs to change, and I agree that, that it seems like we could discuss it forever. And we have to cut to the chase and try and prevent some of the things that have happened recently. I just know that we've been part-time residents in Wilmington for 4 years, but driving up the first time and seeing the RVs, I went into shock. I was like, what is that? Not my idea of Wilmington.
Thank you. And I should have said this earlier. Public hearings traditionally or generally, I've never been to a public hearing where there was a dialogue between the board and the public. This is for the public to speak and we listen. But actually the next thing on the agenda is we'll see how long the public hearing goes. We'll see how many comments people have. And possibly we'll have some back and forth depending on how long the second agenda item goes. I'm sorry for not saying that at the beginning. We're just going to go grab a copy of the local law. I think there's extra copies over there. Joe.
Michelle Custom. I also want to talk about the section 3. Basically, I want to just address why it's singled out to retail. I know that this stems from everyone's concern back at the Dollar General days and everything. And I'm not too sure that 8,000 square feet is really a number that I'm comfortable with. I don't know. I think that it needs to be based on what the actual business is. But I think that by singling out specifically retail, we're showing that we're biased against a retail establishment. And we might be opening ourselves up to other businesses, like who's to say that we don't have this giant warehouse that wants to just come, but we haven't specifically said that warehouses aren't available. I just think that we're being too specific saying it's retail that we don't want. And we could be in the same situation where we have some factory that wants to come or other types of businesses, and we're being very narrow-minded by saying retail. So I think that that's something that we need to consider. And also, same thing, I think that the board is being very forward-thinking, allowing the comprehensive group to get together. And I think that that's actually, I agree it's going to take time, but through it, I think that we're going to have a really clear vision early on, at least, as to demographics and who is going to be in town and what people really want. And we're going to be able to see, who has young children, what types of places are they going to want? Are they going to want playgrounds? Are they going to want a better health facility? Are they, to find out what people want. And so I think that if too soon we're putting stipulations on things, I personally would rather see it have more triggers that says at X amount of square feet, we demand and stick to the demands that, we have to have traffic flow, the right amount of stipulations put on things. And I would like to see those things tightened up more than putting an actual square footage on things. I think that there's other ways that we can do it. And again, I think that by specifically saying retail, I just think that that's not going to cause or solve the issues that we may have in the future.
Thank you. Pat?
Have we, I'm just like to address what you just said. I think that we can argue about it, and it takes it further down the road. I think we need to do something now to put us in a position of strength. If something comes in, we can say no, or we can say you've got to meet these standards. But I just think we need to do it. I agree with all your points, but yeah. At some point, you gotta just go forward.
Steve?
Well, if somebody wants to put in a home larger than 8,000 square feet,
Wow.
is there a provision in there for that? Yeah.
I'll just address that. I think that is part of the reason to answer Michelle's question and to answer your question is why it was retail. Because if somebody did want to do that, that would not fall under the retail / commercial category.
But it doesn't say commercial, it says retail.
We could just say business. Well, it would still not work.
Right, I mean, because it could be a hotel, it could be a giant greenhouse, it could, there's several different things.
Okay, this is, what's going on right now is part 3 of the agenda. We're still on part 2. I didn't mean to shut down part 2.
Usually when you bang the gavel, that's what you're doing.
Well, no, I want part 2 to continue. I mean, there's everyone, this is the public hearing to hear the public, please.
My name's Adam Height. I live at 1198 Hazelton Road. We moved back to the area 4 years ago. We picked Wilmington because we did like its charm. But we recently did purchase Steinhouse.
Oh, wow.
So our hope is to make that part of the community. I want to run my business out of there. I own a heat pump business for heating and air conditioning. So that's one of the things we'd like to have there. I would like to have some retail space there for the opportunity for people to start businesses, whether that's another contracting business or a retail store, whether it's knickknacks or whatever you want. But our hope is that it can be help the community grow in a positive way. That's my hope. And also to have some longer term housing there, not short term. So again, Adam Height, we're working on a plan, and when the time comes, we will present.
But these limits also may.
Yeah.
Totally.
I don't, they may, it's, my question is, what would an adverse effect or impact be on that land? It's certainly not a positive effect on the town of Wilmington today, the way it is. We were in there last night. Unfortunately, I would say it is not savable. I don't know, sure most of you have been there, but when you walked into the bar is now sagging to the basement. So the building is not savable. So what an adverse effect would be on that is, I think anything we do is positive, but again, there are residents behind us, I'm aware of that. And this is something that my goal is to make it a beautification for the area and positive.
Thank you, and congratulations. It's been a long time coming. And when we get to part 3, I'll address some of the things you said. Dan, please.
My name is Danny Hanson. I live on Brookwood, which is adjacent to the KOA. I'm just here to
voice my support for this local law. My property is directly adjacent to the KOA. I've lived there for 40 years, so I probably don't have to explain my support for this law.
Please.
Cliff Holder, my question is, if you do pass this with a specific square footage total, could someone like these folks here come in and get a variance to go above that square footage total?
Thank you. Thank you. Dan?
I would like to finish on a positive note. I do appreciate the very nice fence.
You do appreciate what?
I appreciate the nice fence that, and on a positive.
Is that positive? Okay. I guess that's it. May I have a motion to keep the public hearing open?
Make it in second, all the things.
I'll second it.
Nobody online either, I just want to
Okay,
mention
thank
that.
you very much.
Yep.
Yes, I suppose we should ask if there's anyone online who would like to comment at this point.
Should be able to put the hand up.
Okay, so we've had a motion and a second on keeping the public hearing open. Now we're at discussion, and I'd just like to say, I believe that under the advice of council, that this is the next step we should take and continue accepting written comments until the next regular monthly meeting, and we will close the public hearing at the start of the regular monthly meeting after allowing more public comment. Please, Dawn.
You have a letter there from Kara Page saying that she is for it. Okay.
I support this law.
There's also a letter from Carl on Andres. Actually, there's two.
Is it, I wouldn't think it's required to make this.
You could just say whether they.
I can summarize it.
Yeah.
Carl's for it. He thinks 8,000, I'm sorry for interrupting you.
No, you're good.
He thinks 8,000 square feet is too large, and he would like a smaller square foot limit. 5,000 square feet is what he's recommending. That's what they have in Stowe. And it was done specifically to thwart dollar store incursions. He emailed the town board the document that's on the table. Hopefully everyone grabbed a copy of that, because it really does help to visualize how large 8,000 square feet is. And it's 8,000 square feet of retail space, so that's not the exterior of the building, that's the interior. So some of these buildings are measured by the exterior. So I found Carl's document very helpful to visualize what 8,000 square feet is. Okay, so we need to have a vote on keeping the public hearing open.
Okay. Hannah?
Yes.
Darren?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Laura? Yes. Randy?
Yes.
We have time for some community discussion about this. I'd say maybe 10, 15 minutes. And I would start with the board, and we can address, if anyone would like to, any of the comments or questions.
Anybody can ask for variance for any interpretation of our code at any time. It would go through the, well, they have to submit a site plan review and then go from there. But yes, if this is enacted, I mean, anybody can ask for a variance.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
One of the zoning board's primary responsibilities is variance applications. Please.
I think we definitely should encourage Steinhoff's improvements or whatever they so desire, really. I mean, anything has got to be better than what we got right now. I'm all for it.
Had the same thought, and Adam, you said basically my thought, which is, boy, I don't know what you'd have to do to make it an adverse aesthetic impact. You'd have to really put some effort to make it adverse. I think you could. I think pretty much anything you'd want to do would not be adverse aesthetic impact.
Please. So I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I'm not against the square footage footprint, and I can get behind that because of a variance. The part of this whole law that I'm really against is the adverse effect thing, because I think it's very subjective depending on who you talk to, and it may not be, all right, you sat here and said, all right, you can't make it an adverse effect. But maybe if you're the person living beside it and now have cars coming in and out of there, now it could be an adverse effect to that person that's living there. It could be an adverse effect to the people across the road because it was nice, quiet, and now all of a sudden there's noise and there's business and there's trucks coming in and out of there. So adverse effects are what people make them. And that's where sometimes I have the problem with that part of the law, because it's very subjective, and adverse effect is not the same to everybody. I like to see things in black and white. And when it's a subjective thing like that, I just feel like stuff can be interpreted wrong or thrown out for no apparent reason because one group of people don't like it, but another people does. It's just, sometimes it gets very cloudy. And I'll leave it at that.
What words would you use?
I don't really think you need the adverse effect part in there because we already have our code in there. And that's why we have language in our code right now that basically says, you know, if it's a detriment to the community or whatever, then it can be turned down for those reasons. But when you put words like adverse effect, it's very subjective. When it's a detriment to the community and it would bring property values down or something like that, that's an adverse effect. But everybody at this table just agreed that if we had Steinhoff's rehabbed, whether it be new building or that building was improved, there's going to be a positive impact on the community. And I would hate to see a project turned down because we have 4 neighbors around that building say it's an adverse effect, or they want to do a 9,000 square foot building because they're going to have 4 different businesses in there. And then the board says, nope, we're not going to approve that. And they say, well, if we can't have 4 businesses, then we're pulling the whole project. Sometimes you can really shoot yourself in the foot by doing little things like that.
And for the people who have come to a lot of meetings over the past 4 years, you know, this is familiar terrain. Darren and I disagree. In our code currently, I believe it says unduly adverse effect. And I think unduly adverse, and then there's a balancing test. But aesthetic, our code uses the word aesthetic multiple times. I think more than a half dozen times that word is in there. And our current code says something like unduly adverse aesthetic impact. And I think that is more subjective than clearly adverse or materially adverse. Materially is not subjective. Unduly adverse, I feel, is more subjective. So I feel that these amendments would make our zoning code less subjective, more objective. And as I've said, in the 4 years we've been talking about this, it's not just 3 guys saying, I don't like how that looks. The record for the Walmart case, Planning Board of the Town of North Elba, Walmart Stores Inc., the Planning Board of the Town of North Elba, it's voluminous, it's thick, and there's, you know, computer simulations, there's visual impact studies, there's public comments, there's a lot of thought that goes into it. It's not just a knee-jerk reaction of a few people on a board saying, I don't like how that looks. There's a lot more to it than that. And if it had been 3 people saying, I don't like how that looks, the town of North Elba would not have won that case.
I'll just give one last example of exactly what I'm talking about. Is I don't even know, maybe Cliff knows at this point, 15 years ago or so, when Roy Holzer was putting gas pumps in the little supermarket, it got to the point at public hearings where people were literally saying, we want this, we want this, we want this, but we don't like what it's going to do to our property values, and it's going to have an adverse impact of the surrounding properties. It almost got to the point where Roy pulled it out of there because of that thing. And people in that area could clearly say that those lights or that traffic had an adverse impact. And we would have lost a gas station coming into the town of Wilmington because of things like that. Where 95% of the town thought it was a positive, we very well could have lost that if somebody could have sued the town of Wilmington and said, this is going to have an adverse impact because of the way it looks. And clearly they could have proved that. And Roy almost pulled the whole plug because of that.
I would just say, one response to that is we've had multiple projects in Wilmington, on landmark properties, very visible projects that are on very shaky ground in our zoning code, and they were approved. So I think if there's a desire for a project in the town, and these projects were controversial and strongly opposed by large percentages of the town, and they were approved nonetheless. So if there's a need, I think our planning and zoning board, this is just allowing them to say no. And I think we have to allow our boards to say no. If we don't, what is the point of having them? Is how I look at it. Michelle, as Darren said earlier, it's true. These 4 amendments, they're not going to heal the ills of the world. They're not going to deal with every conceivable problem. That's not what they're meant to do. They're meant to be a first step in tightening up our zoning code. I don't believe that they're the final step. I think probably no one in this room believes that they're the final step. They're a first step that is overdue and will be helpful to the town. The retail, and I think everyone knows why it's specific to retail. And I think that's positive, and it's individual. So if there were 4 different shops that wanted to go to Steinhoff's, each shop under this law could be up to 8,000 square feet, which is, as Carl showed us, quite large. Yes, please, Bill.
So to Darren's point, it's a valid point that there is subjectivity in a lot of these decisions. But that's inherent to the whole planning process. Not everything is just like an equation. And not everything is just, a setback that you have to meet or something like that. There are subjective components of any of these decisions. What's missing from the conversation right now is that it's the comprehensive plan that really helps to determine what is an adverse impact. So for example, if in our comprehensive plan, we say we want to, this is just hypothetical, we want to save the historical character of some parts of Wilmington. And then somebody comes in and wants to just demolish everything and change the whole character. That's subjective in terms of, if you didn't have the comprehensive plan defining the standards we want, that would be very subjective. But when you have the comprehensive plan saying, our community has spoken and that this is what they want to look like, that is why you have to have a good comprehensive plan that's updated, relevant to the current time, to back up whatever you do with our zoning.
And we have a great comprehensive plan that was written in 1975. So that's why that's a focus of the current board is. But that's a multi-year process. The best case scenario, that will take 2 years. And then it will take another, again, very optimistically, year to adopt a new zoning code after that. So that's why we're trying to get something on the books. Please.
could the word retail just be changed to commercial? And that way it covers a broader,
It certainly could. I think Darren would oppose it even more strongly. You said over the years as we've been talking about this, what about a hotel? That would probably, a large hotel would probably exceed 8,000 square feet. So,
infrastructure wise, Wilmington doesn't have infrastructure for a large hotel. Anyways, we don't have sewage, we don't have, you know, I mean,
I don't disagree, but just reciting our conversations over the past 4 years. So, Cliff, please.
Has anybody got any advice from the attorney that was just on specific wording that Darren's worried about with the adverse, or
Yes, I have.
what was
But
his
he might,
recommendation?
I think it would be better if he speaks for himself.
Okay.
Specific wording of what nature? I'm sorry?
The adverse aesthetic, the clearly or materially adverse aesthetic impact on neighboring property owners in the town. Or materially adverse on neighboring property owners, or clearly adverse aesthetic impact upon the town.
Okay, I'm hearing the word. I'm hearing the words. What's the question?
So basically, how does that differentiate itself from our code the way it's written now? And you're familiar with our code now, I believe, because we've had this discussion with you over the years. So what does this do as far as limiting or not limiting development based on those additional words?
What's your question, Cliff, exactly?
If this is what he recommends, and what's the, I guess, what's the difference from the way it's worded now to what you want to word it as?
Okay, the question is, well, this question assumes that you're familiar with the language in our current code, which is unduly adverse, with a balancing test, with a half dozen different factors. It's the impact on the neighbors is balanced against various things, a half dozen things. So are you familiar with our code, and what is the impact of these amendments compared to what our code says now? Is the question.
So if that's questions directed at me, first of all, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
If that question is directed at me, I don't think I can really answer that question for two reasons. Number one, despite what somebody just said, I don't have years of experience with the Wilmington Code. And I am generally familiar with the provisions that exist now. I'm familiar with the provisions that are proposed. To the extent that people are looking for objectively verifiable, factual-based standards, none of the things you're considering are objectively verifiable, factual-based standards, nor am I suggesting that they should or could be. Land use planning and zoning doesn't always lend itself to black, white, objectively verifiable factual analysis. So the terms that are being used, like undue adverse impact, materially undue adverse impact, and all those things, none of those are black, white, objectively verifiable terms. But having said that, I do think that within the range of subjective, subject to interpretation words, the words that are proposed would seem to be tightening up, to use the phrase that Tim used a little while ago, tightening up as opposed to loosening up, meaning making it more difficult for intensive retail development to be taking place. Not impossible, but more difficult. I think that's the best I can offer.
That answers it for me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. I mean, he has reviewed all these and gave us the go-ahead on them.
Right, but let's be careful about that. I don't try to influence the town's policy. That would not be appropriate. I am not an elected official. I like to hold myself out as knowing quite a lot about land use planning and zoning, especially in northern communities near and in the Adirondack Park. But my job is largely to focus on the process and make sure that T's are crossed and that I's are dotted, and to help you achieve what are your policy goals. I don't set the policy goals.
Thank you. Well taken. And, your comments about the importance of the comprehensive plan are well taken as well. And I think this conversation does highlight the need to get going on that. More comments or questions? I hope we answered everyone's.
I have a
Yes,
question
please.
because I'm relatively new and I should have done more homework and looked at the zoning in Wilmington. But I suspect it's mostly mixed use and not, business or residential. And that is part of what the problem is that we're potentially looking at. Because I sure as heck wouldn't be real happy to have a house or have owned that property for a long time and then suddenly have something with floodlights, blasting through my windows. And I guess that's what we're trying to avoid, I'm assuming, right?
Yes, there's two issues. And they're interrelated and they're based on the way Wilmington has grown and their issues the town's been talking about probably for more than 50 years.
Yeah.
Which is the hamlet where where the APA and the town and the people who made the comprehensive plan, the people who made the zoning code and every other town document we all think that business should be in the hamlet. A lot of the houses, I don't know if it's half or more than half, a lot of the properties in the hamlet are residential. And then we also have a lot of businesses outside of the hamlet. And our zoning code people will say we don't have a business district. It's kind of true, it's kind of not true. The hamlet is the business district, but it's also true that the rest of the town is also pretty open for business. Yep. Please, Pat.
I was wondering what the answer was to Michelle's suggestion to put commercial in instead of, I agree with that. I think that's good wording.
I would have to, we've been thinking about it and talking about it in one way for 2.5 years, so I'd have to think about, I don't have a opinion.
Mark.
Hi, Mark. The suggestion is that the third part of the first part of the proposed local law, the suggestion from the community is change it from retail trade use to commercial use. And what would be the impact of that? I know that one of the reasons it's written the way it is I believe that when I drafted this, I was taking a previous North Elba code. And I lowered the numbers from what they had. So I believe that almost every word is identical to what North Elba's previous code had. But Mark, can you speak to that question of commercial versus individual retail trade use?
I'm not 100% sure that I understand the question, but if I do, it would depend at least to some extent on how those terms are defined in Wilmington's zoning law. In some the definitions of commercial use and retail use, there's no New York State official definition of those use terms. So it's subject to different definitions in different municipalities. And under the principle of home rule, local municipalities have the opportunity, but not the obligation, to define those terms however they see fit. So it depends on how we define them.
Thank you. And thank you, because our zoning code defines retail very broadly. So that may alleviate some of your concerns. The definition of retail in our zoning code. Frustratingly, I did not bring a copy of the zoning code, and I don't want to run to my office to get it. Before you do, I just have one thing. The storage warehouses on Route 86, where Francis Better Shop they were approved as a retail use, that's really torturing the English language. But if you read the definition in our code, it does make sense. No, that's the use table.
No, I know, but it's listed. Anything that would be listed as a commercial use is in that table.
But we're talking about the definition of retail.
Right, but you were saying that about the commercial use. I'm just showing you that I can find retail. I just gotta search the word.
Retail is defined. It includes services in our code, and the storage units were classified as a service and therefore shoehorned into retail. Thank you very much. It's good, deputy. Retail use, establishments providing goods, merchandise, or services to the general public for a fee, such as but not limited to banks, educational services, gift shops, dry cleaners, laundromats, supermarkets, and food stores. So when we think of retail, we think of supermarkets, we think of gift shops and food stores. We don't think of storage warehouses, but ours, it's not a crazy thing to define a storage unit as a service. And so that's retail under our definition of the word. And that would be good to have this, it would have been good to have had this in place at the time if you're one of the people who feel that the storage, that feel that they are not a good welcome gate to the town. Welcome to Wilmington, here's our 40,000 square foot storage unit facility. The business is fine, there's a need for them, I've used them, but does it have to be so visible? And if some of these amendments had been in place, it wouldn't be so visible. Sorry for that monologue.
That being said, Tim, and correct me if I'm wrong, our planning board at the time could have put the stipulation, the only way these are going in there is with screening and the berm or whatever, and they didn't. So that could have been done with or without these resolutions.
That's true, and this is taking us down a whole other side.
I'm just letting you know.
No, well, I'll respond. And the response is, there are members of the board and members of the community who thought that those stipulations were included. Nothing was in writing. So again, we've learned the hard way again and again and again, everything has to be in writing. And we really have to be, our boards really have to be on their toes. Our land use boards really have to be on their toes. So, please, Cliff.
Maybe you've covered this already, but is this for the hamlet or outside of the hamlet or across the board?
Across the board. Which I think makes sense, because if you are in what has always been a residential part of town, that's where you really would want restrictions on 8,000 square feet shops, that's where you would want a strong buffer between, your home and the supermarket or whatever, the storage units, whatever. I guess 50 minutes, I think, is sufficient, and it's time for our work session.
Can I add one thing?
Please.
Down on general guidelines, number 2, you have at least 30 feet of natural vegetation. That's pretty subjective, I think. I mean, your natural vegetation could be a 60-foot tree with no limbs on it. 30 of them that you can see right through. Maybe something to add to that would be like a 30-foot of no cut zone or something to try to tighten that up, because I think it could be questioned. So
I've actually,
my natural vegetation, but to them it is, but to us it's not.
I actually agree with Cliff on that, and I actually said this is where I feel that it should be stricter, because natural vegetation doesn't necessarily mean screening.
And as Laura said the last time we talked about it, it's natural or improved state, and then the next subsection emphasizes that our boards may require additional screening, additional planting. And so this language is from the 1988 Wilmington zoning code, and this has already been lawyered and litigated. And so I was trying to use language that has been through this before and survived all these tests in the past. And
could you add a no cut zone to that? Tighten it up a little more? Like, I've been involved with different subdivisions. We do a 25-foot no cut zone each way on each property line. That gives you a 50-foot buffer. I mean, it might help tighten it up.
this only applies to commercial.
Okay.
Commercial uses. Which in the 88 code, well, that's a whole nother, I don't want to go on that tangent. But I mean, it's not a terrible idea by any means to strike that word, but this is me trying to make the other side happy. And limit it and not extend it to residential, whereas in the past, depending on how you look at it, maybe it was.
Yeah.
Could you put, only a certain percentage of visibility of that business any time of the year? Could you go by percentages of, if you have trees that you can still see in, even if it's a great distance. But if you're driving by, you can still see, say the storage units. If you put only 50% visibility of that business, can that work or not work? Or is that getting a little crazy?
I think it would be incredibly hard to police it and enforce it, and, depending on when that they put their house in or whatever that they're putting in, depending on when that they're laying the plot, and
Yeah.
it would be hard to know what it's going to look like in that amount of time, and based upon where this house or the building is situated, however much of that would be visible. You could only see a corner, but, it just depends on, there's so many variables. I mean, I know what you're saying, because there is so much variability between the seasons for what is viewable. So, as I'm learning.
So,
But, yeah.
these amendments, I've been working for 2.5 years to get them approved, and I'm still not even sure that they'll be approved as they are. So as far as like making them even more rigorous and even stronger, I mean, it really depends on what the rest of the board wants to do. I'm open to it, but boy, has it been a struggle to get even these. So I'm kind of reluctant to go farther. Any other board member comments? Sorry for monopolizing the discussion so much.
I don't know how complicated you want to make it. I mean, you can make it as complicated as you want to, but I don't know, you have to come up with some sort of a plan and stick with it. So I don't know.
I think that's a good point too.
You could talk forever on it. I mean, really, nobody's gonna totally agree with everything that you say in this thing, and it's just never gonna happen that you're gonna get 100% everybody agreeing.
I agree with you.
Well, there's two.
Okay, I guess we'll move on into the work session. Take a 5-minute recess, and then we'll start the work session. Thank you all for coming. I guess to get a resolution, or I can just declare that.
So I'm dropping out. Have a good night, everybody.
We kept it open, we will keep it open.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
Take care. Have a good night, everybody.
That's what I should do.
I recognize your name.
Swear on camera.
Yeah.
I mean, I just.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I see it going. Yeah, I don't see it coming.
the weather was so bad, it assumed that a lot of people didn't come because of the weather.
I'm interested in looking into that subcommittee plan. I don't know if I have the energy and the time or anything, but I could just start down. I sent you an email.
Okay, today?
Yeah.
Okay,
So Pat said I could maybe just show up and start.
yes, 6 PM on the 6th, we'll do it here. We're gonna do, I think we have some public noticing as well, but yeah, we can make sure I have the right email for you and all that stuff.
You do, because you sent me thank you.
Perfect.
You sent me thank you for coming.
Perfect, so you're already in there, great. If I haven't seen yours from today, I apologize.
No,
I
no, no,
will, I'll get to them
You have a life.
ASAP.
Okay. All right. I'll try to come on the 6th.
Yeah, that would be great.
I
Yeah,
don't know, what all it entails.
well, you
Nothing
can,
sure.
yeah, see what we're up to and
Okay.
decide how you want to participate.
Okay,
Cool, thank you.
thank you.
Right.
I'm done.
A little bit extra than what we do that.
We don't have a public planning board.
Give them 3 years or something, to 5 years, you have any growth to 100%.
In that quiet,
Closure.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
I'm a code of style, living on the same place. No, I'm not technically on the planning board, but I work, I'm at the table. And I set up the agenda, get all the information, I distribute all the information. I'm in the middle of it.
That were successful.
Your cemetery is
right
good.
now I'm in listening mode.
Your
When I
cemetery is
can
good.
hear that, it's right now.
Yeah, see the prices going up in a second.
Definitely.
Oh, right, Jen,
What's her name?
Jen Lindsay. She's very, with it. I like her. Yeah, yeah. She's impressed with you.
The one, she's the one we met. She's the one we met at the town dinner.
Yeah, she's that with us, yeah.
Okay, with the, talk about the dogs and stuff.
Yeah, she has dogs.
Oh, speaking of that, how to talk about.
I have pictures.
We'll share them.
Oh my God, it's so cute. This is Darren Davis back orange bag.
They are, they're still considered snowmobile.
Have that.
Are those 2 marks on the shoe?
Well, Darren's recipient, that's Darren's shoe.
Oh my God,
Look at the look of it.
that's Darren's shoe.
Soft.
Oh.
All that.
So cute. Oh my God.
He's not owning it.
Only you're as big as a horse.
They like that? No.
Big racetrack.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've never seen one.
There's black, there's brindle, there's mantle, which is like Merle, there's Hartley. We changed his name. From Bruno now, not Bruno.
Oh, that would be easier for you to know.
I know.
And stuff.
Yeah, thank you for doing that for me.
Well, off the tongue, you know?
Uh-huh.
He came with it.
It sounds too much
It's a North
like-
guy.
It
Yeah.
sounds too much like odor.
Yeah, and he does do that. That's the first picture I took.
Move Doug to the front of the line. So we hear the front of the fire station piece. This meeting back to order. We're going to depart from the agenda and bring Doug to the front of the line to discuss transfer station fees.
I think we have to open up our town board session.
Please stand for the pledge.
No.
No, we don't have to do the pledge again.
Welcome to our work session. Doug, do you have anything you'd like to say about transfer station fees?
Yes, I would like to raise the mattress fees from $5 to $10 a piece. And tires are now $6 off a rim, $7 on a rim. I'd like to raise that to 8 and 9 respectively.
Can you repeat the tire prices?
6 and 7 right now, 8 and 9 is what I'm asking for.
You know, we talked a little bit today about going higher, like going to 11 or 12 on the mattresses, or, you know, a few dollars higher on the tires. Just bringing that up for the board and Doug to consider.
I think
Anyone
we'll start
has-
here and then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, I agree with you, Tim. So I feel like you go to most garages, they charge more than $8 a tire to get rid of them. So I'd have no problem going $10 for tires or something like that. Not at all.
Do 10 and 11, that's fine.
That's what I'm saying. I'd have no problem with that. So whatever the board feels.
Does
Can you
somebody-
can you hold up on the mattresses for another week? I need to get rid of them.
You know,
They've been
this,
sitting there for way too long.
you know,
On those mattresses,
over the years, you know, the work sessions, I think, and Don and Darren can correct me if I'm wrong, I feel the work sessions initially were to have a more relaxed, casual discussion of things. And over the years, they've just become more and more like regular meetings where there have been more and more resolutions. So I'm trying to get away we're just discussing. We're not going to resolve anything.
Oh, we're not doing a resolution tonight?
No, I don't think, no, because I'm trying to get away from that.
Or Saturday.
Am I right about that?
Yeah, we never used to make a lot. I mean,
That's right.
for the most part.
Right. Yeah,
Even
sometimes-
recently, we haven't made tons, except where we needed to.
It's, well, I think that exhausts that discussion. Thank you, Doug.
We're good?
Unless any members of the public have any questions for Doug?
Well,
You
I
did
mean,
have one
since-
there. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
I know, but I was just gonna let Doug go.
Well, since we are talking about we just talked about transfer station. Well, he's also planning board fees and permit fees for building permits. So we might as well finish him up while he's here and get it all out on the table rather than asking him to come back some other time.
Well, frankly, okay, Doug. Oh, thank you. Good deputy. So we did go up, we went up 2 years ago, right? 2 years ago, we went up on our building permit fees. When we talk, we want these fees to cover our costs. And when we consider our costs, your half-time transfer station, half-time code enforcement, do these fees cover your salary? That half?
I'd have to do the math on it. I have never looked at it that way.
I think that's something I'm going to try to figure out before the next meeting.
Okay.
Because
And however you want to adjust it is fine with me, but we could definitely do the math on it.
do you have anything you'd like to say about building permit?
No, I
fees or-
just figured if Doug had any comments where people are coming in and being like, oh, I can't believe your fees are so high, or we seem to be in line with other towns, or.
The only thing I hear is that we're less expensive. But these are people from, Jersey and, places where it's much more expensive.
Let's not go as high as them.
We were way behind the neighboring towns. And then we did catch up, but I think we're still lower than the neighboring towns. We're lower than inflation, what the fees would be as they were set in, I believe, 2010, and then adjusted for inflation. They're our fees are lower than the inflation. Any members of the public have questions for Doug? Steve, please.
The fees will never cover his full paycheck as far as building permits, because you never know how many you're gonna sell. I know the fees in J do not cover Roger's complete salary.
That's a full-time job, I assume. Code enforcement?
It's not full-time.
No.
Yeah.
Please.
To that point, Tim, and what you kind of said is, I don't know, 2025 may have been a good year and Doug may have had, 10 new houses and a bunch of additions, but next year it could fall completely off and we have a quarter of that. So we can't really base it necessarily on his salary because that has peaks and valleys over decades and
Makes sense.
as time goes, so.
Yeah, those, the number of building permits was, I think, very high, the years immediately after COVID, and is probably falling now.
They're still hanging in there.
They're still really high.
So do you charge them to fill out a building permit?
It depends. If it's a full build, yes, the application fee is on there. You're talking about an application fee?
Just to give them an application? You
No,
gave
well,
me an application, do you charge me for that application? Not even what I'm building for, just giving me that application?
no. I will tie in a application fee if you have a full build, because there's a lot more to that.
Other questions?
I think when it comes to your salary and those applications and stuff like that, you need to base it on like, okay, I get a building permit from you, and the time that you processed it after I gave it back, if you spent an hour on it doing there, and if you came to my house and did 3 inspections and you spent those 3 hours on it, or if you had to do mailings, you add those things up, that would be your cost of that application. It has nothing to do with your yearly salary, it has to do with what time you spent on it and postage or something like that.
It says on our application, it says a $40 fee. And then it has all of the prices listed, but, so that's only if they complete it and.
Yeah, they don't give me the money to get the application, because they can download it off.
Right, when they submit the application.
Right.
They give you.
It's part of the fee that they will ultimately pay. They don't always know what the fee is gonna be, the total fee for what their project's gonna be.
Okay, so you don't charge them 40 and then the fee?
No, it's all part of the full fee that they pay.
Maybe that should change.
I think maybe you're misunderstanding it. So if it's a 2,000 square foot house and they're doing a septic and they're doing a deck and they're doing a fireplace, Doug adds the $40 plus the septic plus the square footage plus.
It's not like they have 100 square foot, and you don't take, it's not like a down payment on their
No.
fee. Okay, gotcha. Excuse me. Thank you.
Please.
From me collecting the money, the one I see that really should go up is the extension fee. Because you've got some real expensive houses sometimes that are getting their extension for $25.
No, that's, the extension is half the permit fee.
That's half the full permit fee? Okay, then I misunderstood it. I just see extension fee and saw $25 and thinking, wow, we're not getting enough for that.
I think you're excused, Doug. Michelle, please.
Oh, no, I'm scratching my ear.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think you're excused as far as I'm
Thank you very
concerned.
much.
Thanks.
Well, that's what we just did.
Even higher.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
What do you think, Tina?
We charge 20.
Well, that's a rich dump, though. Okay. Thanks.
Nancy, you better get those now.
Hard by the size of mattress.
I'd like to, I did broach the topic at the last meeting. I have been asked to use Festival Field for a wedding, which is great. We need, I think all she wants from the town, famous last words. What she's asking for is the town to put up a tent. So we need to just discuss if we want to do that. I personally I think it's good, but we can discuss, I'm open to hearing what everyone thinks and also what we want to charge.
You mentioned that that was gonna conflict with one of the
Mhm.
things that goes on.
Mhm.
What's it gonna conflict with?
Festival of Colors. It's the day before. But I was thinking maybe the
The day
tent will
before,
already
that
be
wouldn't
up.
conflict if it's happening before it.
Yeah, but there was a lot of setup before.
No.
What time of day?
I have no idea. I told her to talk to John and get back to me, which she has not done.
Is it local?
Yes. Yep.
A lot of locals like Festival of Colors.
I'm not trying to cancel Festival of Colors. I'm just bringing up the topic.
Yeah, no, I'm just
Just a
pointing
wedding,
that out.
is it just a wedding or a reception or what? I mean, a wedding is not an all-day affair, but if it's a reception and a wedding, yeah. I mean,
Yeah, will they have enough time to set up for the Festival of Colors?
I have a question.
Please.
If they're gonna set up the tent for the Festival of Colors, tell the lady that if she wants to use it, she has to use the tent that you're setting up for the Festival of Colors, or don't do it. You're making the rules. Tell her she could either abide by them, and there's gonna be hay bales and stuff around for the Festival of Colors. If she's okay with that, then so be it, and if not,
And then the only other thing is, like you said, if there's a wedding reception, how long is it gonna go at night for the neighbors? Noise wise.
Tent owner, do we charge them, do we allow tent set up like we would set it up? Is that part of our fee structure or is that?
We've never done that before. We've never even had a request for it.
Okay, I didn't know if it was on there. I can't remember.
So as far as the tents, I know that the ones that the Visitors Bureau own, once you start saying that you'll let people use the tent, it snowballs. And those tents, we at the Visitors Bureau always had a policy that the only people that we ever allowed to set it up were the town employees, because you have to know how to do it. I mean, and they're not easy to put up. And then you start getting into liability. God forbid a tent falls or something, whose insurance is it going to go on? And the tents are already starting to get little tiny pinholes in them because wear and tear, and they're very expensive. So I'm just letting you guys know, once you start down that road of letting people use tents, it's very hard to say no to people. And so that just might be something you want to think about with caution, between liability and wear and tear on the tents.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's one thing to let them use the space and they could rent their own tent and do their own setup. I don't know about us doing a tent.
No, a rental for that, you know, that's
You see horror stories and stuff on the internet all the time where a big wind gust come down and the tent comes down and traps people inside or something. I don't think it's necessarily but it's not our event. Probably not the best idea.
Well, the town owns them and Visitors Bureau.
Oh, okay, so they could rent the town.
Town paid for it. Our policy has been, if an event that requires town labor, $100 fee, which is not going to cover the cost of the labor, but at least it helps to defray. I guess I've got some homework and I'll report back at a later date. I'll ask, is it just, how long is this hootenanny gonna go for? Will you be okay with all of the stuff there for Festival of Colors? How late? I'll make them, if we do go forward with it, I'll make her sign a insurance waiver liability, standard boilerplate. And then I'll broach the topic of her renting a tent. Then I'll report back.
The problem is being Festival of Colors the next day. If she rented a tent, there's no way that they're going to get it down that day and be ready for 7 o'clock the next morning for them to start
Mhm.
filing in there.
I mean, the main question is, are you open to moving it to a different day?
Or let them have it up to the
Right.
ball field instead.
Yep.
Is there exception there, or you don't know?
No, I just got like a few sentences. Question.
I mean, a wedding with like 5 kegs or, you know, I mean, that wouldn't be good, I don't think, but.
Tim, you're gonna need a certificate of liability showing the town as the certificate holder. This afternoon, insurance company.
Well, I think that this is far down the road. We don't even know if we've got a lot of legwork to
Right, but
do.
if they do that.
Okay. That's a question for Brian Lee and Kennelly. Okay. Comprehensive plan process discussion,
Can I start?
please.
Cool. Okay. Several of you came to the first meeting that we had. Thank you for that. We're going to do our next meeting next Friday, the 6th at 6 p.m. here in town. We've got some good input already, and we're looking just to get more people involved and get, you know, more thoughts and ideas from everyone. I want to reiterate again, we're not to the point where people are being officially appointed to the committee. That's something that the board does. Pat and I are just trying to get the committee started and then go from there.
I thought it was.
Sorry. Do you know if the meeting will be available online?
Yes, that's our plan right now. I would say yes, and we'll let you know if something goes horribly wrong and it doesn't happen.
We have had recurring scheduling issues, and that just, to me, that just points to there's space in this building, but we need to be able to use that space. We need some of these rooms downstairs. You know, these groups are not that large. Some of these groups are groups that I hadn't heard of. I didn't know that they used the town hall, but comprehensive plan committee, there will be subcommittees. There usually are subcommittees. Homestead Housing Board, they'll need to use this space. So it's going to be a recurring issue. And I just want to make everyone aware of it. Please.
You have the table in the other room that we could put more chairs on and pull toward the center of the room. So committees could meet in there
True.
very nicely. The table's just a little bit smaller than that one.
You're comfortable with groups meeting in that area?
Sure, all my stuff is public information.
Okay.
I don't expect them to go back there and snoop around.
Oh, they will.
Snoop around,
They
but
will.
yeah, I have no
They're
problem
going to
with
be right back there first day.
them being there. Anything that's confidential is locked up.
Okay.
Did we ever put up chains and signs like we had talked to be like restricted access areas?
I've
So,
got one at my desk that I can put up, and I've got the keep employees only signs and stuff.
well, because we had talked about that when that person was going around. So basically, I mean, the way your
I can
desk
put a
is this,
scanner across it.
I understand, but if it's not there on a daily basis, then somebody could just walk back there and be like, oh, there's no sign. So I was just asking.
Start putting the chain across. If I know there's a meeting, I'll put the chain across it and put the employees only. And hopefully they abide by that.
I did attend the meeting. I thought it was excellent. I have a lot to say about all of this. First of all, we did apply for a comprehensive plan grant. That application was unsuccessful, and we're going to have a debrief in February as to why the application was unsuccessful. And I know, to say that I know little about it would be generous, you know. I don't, we were not really kept in the loop about any of that. So I guess I'll find out more when I find out why it wasn't successful, but I'll leave it at that. So for the public, I have been talking with Anna I've been talking, a county employee, Anna Reynolds. She's from the office of, it's a funny name, but she's the county's person for planning, zoning, and comprehensive plans. And so I asked her, you know, what if we don't hire a consultant and we just have a community group? How far, I know they can go some portion of the way down the road, because we've been talking about this for 2.5 years. It's like, let's get this show on the road, you know, let's start going down the road. So I said, how far can they go before we hire a consultant, before we need to hire a consultant? And she said, you can go pretty far. And the farther you go, the less you'll have to pay the consultant. And I spoke with Joe Pete Wilson, the first time I'd ever spoken with him in any length. They never hired a consultant, and they spent $5,000. They got around 100 people in the community participated in one way or another. And yes, so it was really a grassroots community-driven process. You know, you want all the different demographics in town to be heard, and they feel that with 100 people participating in various ways, that all the demographics were heard. On the other side of the spectrum is Essex, New York, which did have a consultant-driven process, which means it cost $100,000, or it cost a large amount of money, which probably was mostly paid for by grants, but they still had to pay some portion of it. Essex's comprehensive plan is, you know, prominently displayed on the town's website, so people can take a look at it. And there's a wealth of information about what a comprehensive plan is on the Essex, New York website. Keene's comprehensive plan, well, Keene calls it a strategic plan. Just going into my conversation with Joe Pete, he said he's never been questioned about it. Like no state agency has ever questioned theirs, and it has been successful. One of the reasons you want a comprehensive plan is because the agencies that evaluate grant applications want to see the towns have a comprehensive plan. No agency has ever questioned Keene's. And they've received grants. So that's just information for the public, really, just things for everyone to know, basically. Anna Reynolds thinks that at some point we'll need to hire a consultant, and I believe we probably at some point will need to hire a consultant, but hopefully rather than talking about the comprehensive plan and how we need a comprehensive plan, we can start working towards one. And I think we will. We are. So, Pat, please.
It's the Essex County Community Resources.
Essex County, Anna Reynolds, Office of Essex County Community Resources.
Yeah. I called her today, asking for those steps, and gonna return my call eventually.
Since you're talking about websites, the minutes from the meeting are on our website under minutes or documents. I can't remember. Meeting documents. Give me one moment.
Documents and forms.
Thank you, Don. Documents and forms, and it's in its own category under the comprehensive planning resources, and it's got the minutes uploaded. So if anybody's interested in seeing what Hannah submitted, that's available for the public.
Really good notes.
Yeah, very good, very good.
What people gotta remember is comprehensive plan is not a law. It's a guide or a vision of the future. So don't get confused with the law.
Any other discussion? Okay. Yes, I would, if you're interested in these topics, I would encourage you to look at Essex, New York's website. I think there's a lot of information there. Next topic, just like to tell, what's that?
The comprehensive planning committee
Is departing?
nucleus is gone, yeah.
Okay.
You with us?
Thank you for coming. Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, guys.
She was hoping the rest of us would leave with her.
I kind of was too.
I'm just picking up my mattresses I got there.
I guess there's a lot I could say about the county meetings. The most important thing, the only controversial thing really has been the way in which Roost is funded, the occupancy tax law. And that was every vote has been unanimous so far at the Board of Supervisors. This vote was 16 towns to 2, and the 2 towns were North Elba and Jay. So going back, when this occupancy tax law was written around the year 2000, the law itself states that the money raised in occupancy tax has to go to the Lake Placid Essex County Chamber of Commerce, which is the organization that eventually branded itself as Roost. Technically, it's still that organization. That's still how they file their taxes, which is it's a problem. It's a problem for the county. It's a problem in various respects. One, it's a problem, first of all, the county attorney thinks it's a violation of state procurement law. The county has to, in what other situation are you mandated to go with one contractor, one company in perpetuity? Most counties don't even state in their occupancy tax laws what the money has to be used for. I think there are some that do, but it says for tourism promotion or economic development. But ours says this money has to go to the Lake Placid Essex County Chamber of Commerce for the promotion of tourism and economic development. So that's one issue. The other issues are, members of the Board of Supervisors felt that they couldn't get information from Roost. They felt that they couldn't even get, and this is in the minutes, this will be in the minutes of the meeting, they couldn't get the board members' salaries. They felt that money was being spent on frivolous things. That was a point made at the Board of Supervisors meeting. Anyway, I think that's enough information about that probably, but.
One thing to add to that money is up to almost $7 million.
Yes, that's true too. That's a good point.
Big
Yes.
pile of money.
Yep.
And we're the only county out of 62 counties in New York State that gives money to a private contractor. Everybody else delegates it as they wish.
Good point. Yeah, good point. So this has been it's been a long process, and it will continue. I think, ultimately it'll be up to the county or to the state legislature. It's not up to the county legislature. It's up to state assembly and state senate, and the governor has to sign it. But the wheels are in motion. They've been in motion, and they continue. And we just took another procedural vote on Tuesday to continue going forward with this.
Don't they also have contracts though, like with Wilmington County and
Mhm.
one of the other counties though? So.
But it is odd. The most straightforward argument against the law is the county is mandated to funnel all this money to one contractor, no matter what the contractor does and doesn't do, and it's odd.
Seems like a backdoor deal somewhere.
I think it clearly was, and I'm not going to say it on video. I think. Well, no, I'm not going to say.
I did.
If you can. I mean, you don't have to. You don't have to. Have a PhD in reading between the lines to see what happened. The only other thing I want to tell the public is very interesting presentation from the Office of Weights and Measures, which was you wouldn't think that would be an interesting presentation. It was. He checks prices is one of his many duties, and in retail stores, our prices are only 81% accurate, meaning like 1 out of 5 times the price is wrong. The price that is marked on the item is not the price that rings up. And the conversation mostly attributed that to Dollar General type stores.
Price Chopper and Hannaford do the same thing.
Yeah, so does Walmart.
Uh-huh. Say, I'm gonna buy this, it's on sale. You get home and look at the bill and it's not on sale. I'm not going back to Classic for $2 or $3 or whatever.
You need to look before you leave the store.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do is read a receipt this long.
Mhm.
Do you?
Yeah.
I just wanted to make the public aware that in the whole county, apparently 1 out of 5 prices is incorrect. Tours of public facilities, very good. Unless anyone else has any questions or anything to say. Very good presentation from the, I guess, public safety. And he's really eager to have members of the public tour the jail. So if you've ever wanted to go to jail, this is your chance. He brought it up several times. Come tour the jail. Come tour the jail. So if anyone wants to tour the jail, I'll tour the jail with you.
You're talking about Essex County?
Yes,
jail?
and Lewis. Yeah. Yep.
You said jail instead of prison, so.
The main reason I put this on the agenda was because I want to make sure that I've told everyone. Lou has offered several times the new town board members and the old town board members too to come tour the highway as much as we want. And he brought that up the last time I talked to him, so I wanted to just remind everyone basically. Also, for the board members who haven't toured the water plant, I highly recommend it. Anyone else have anything they want to say? Moving on. Disaster emergency preparedness. There are 2 things I wanted to discuss about this. Going through the previous supervisor's files, I was very impressed. Randy, I'm not sure if Roy had updated it or not. It's unclear. You know, I think it was clearly Randy started it, and I'm not sure where it went after that. But there's a list of at-risk people in town and elderly people in town, and I thought that was excellent. And I wonder, is that something that our fire and rescue service have, or have we kept up? Have we kept up? Okay.
We do have that, or
Okay.
maybe a little more.
It definitely is.
In some situations, if extended periods of power outage, we'll send members around to these various homes of the elderly. A lot of times, if it's during the day, Carissa does it. I think the last one she did was during the day, and she took the pickup and just went around checking on them.
Great.
I think we're pretty well on top of that on the fire department side.
Great.
The other thing, if you want to lead into that a little bit, with this last cold snap, we did like a public post of being like a warming station per se. I don't think we are prepared to do this at the firehouse, but the town may want to consider some kind of sleeping accommodations. I mean, if it's somebody that can't go home, and where are they going to go?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it be cots here and someone mans it. I mean, I've seen them before. They're in the gyms, and maybe something to add to this.
Mm-hmm.
Plan.
I did talk to Roy about that, and Roy said we never really had a plan for all of that, but there was somebody with that, we don't really have a shower and stuff like that. That's something we should look into.
At least, I mean, a 24-hour thing, then you could make plans to move on beyond that, but
Maybe if we
half a dozen cots or something.
you know.
And I thought that maybe the reason that file was in Randy's office was because of his role with the fire department. So I'm glad that list is being maintained. Thank you.
Excuse me, if I'm not mistaken, stuff like that, I believe, scores you points toward the grades.
Good.
Just to keep that in mind.
So if we could get the updated.
Randy had
list.
to do
Yeah, I'll
a
look through it, see what I
emergency
got, what the
management plan when he got the grants for the dam. So that was a lot of his planning because he had to have this emergency plan and stuff in place in order for to get the grants for that dam at the time.
How is that list curated?
I'm sorry.
How is that list curated?
Word of mouth. Office for the Aging helps a lot with that. Pretty much that's it, unless Bill has any other info, where we're getting info from.
Right, I was just curious.
It definitely hasn't been updated since Roy left. Roy kept it updated and he'd go around
I
and check
think
it out.
Carissa has made contact with the Office of the Aging and added a couple people. But I'll follow.
It's mostly oxygen dependent people.
It is. Those are
She
the
was
number
visiting,
one.
when the power was out for oxygen generators, stuff like that.
Yeah, we've brought generators to homes. I mean, we're getting a little bit of liability. We try not to do that, but if someone really was in need, we're gonna do what we can to help.
I think it would be good, not only people on oxygen, but just people above a certain age, basically.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Do you have an oxygen supply area at the firehouse, or is it just a tank?
We have, well, not really. I mean, the oxygen would be in the ambulance and we have tanks, you know, we have portable stuff we could use, but not really to sustain days and days.
Right.
I may stand corrected, but I think most of these people that are on it dependent or have their own oxygen generators. It's mostly, there's no power,
Yeah,
that they
yeah.
can't run the oxygen generator.
Yeah, they need electricity.
I could stand corrected.
No, I think you're right.
I think that's how it is. I think that's the people she was visiting
Yeah.
when the power went out, to make sure they had supplement to go while the oxygen generator was out.
Next time there is a ice storm type event, the shelter is the firehouse and the town hall is the backup shelter and the highway garage is the second backup shelter, or?
I mean, I guess it could be whatever you want.
Calvary Baptist Gym used to be on that list. Because I think they have a wood stove, or they did have. And I think there's showers there.
That's it. To me, that's a key thing, is shower facilities in a place for someone to sleep. And we've got a couch at the firehouse, but that's about it. I mean, people aren't gonna be very comfortable down there.
So we should, you know, where are we gonna put the cots? You know,
Right here.
no, to store them.
Oh, I mean, they pull
They're
up,
not big.
they
They're not
pull
big at
up
all.
pretty easily. I'm talking like military style.
Yeah.
It's like, I've been on different things where I've actually slept in a gym on a military cot, but that's kind of what my vision is. It's not for weeks, it's for hours. Maybe I can talk to Josh.
They're about the size of a chair, a folding chair, only a little taller, the bags. I've got a couple at the house.
We can keep them right in here.
I got you.
You could put them in the closet.
Yep, okay. What about the parks building as a disaster shelter?
You been inside there?
Yes,
Yeah, that's not.
no, it would be good, okay.
I would.
To me, obviously, the thing is, there's not a generator.
Yeah.
That's a
It's a garage.
true on garage.
Yeah. Even a
No,
hybrid.
I'm not talking about John's garage,
Oh, which one?
the youth center.
Oh, you said, yeah, that's.
We're all thinking of a different building.
I thought you were talking John's garage shop.
No, that's the seventh
I
option.
don't want to sleep in there.
Like John and Ashley.
What would a generator for that building cost?
Realistically, I don't know how many people you could put in there, but I think you're better off.
It would be
talking
for
to-
like a family, if there was a family that had an emergency, that needed a place to, you know, it's not for the whole town, it's for people whose pipes burst or,
Someone had a fire or something.
that's right.
But in a situation like that, I mean, I would think we've got enough lodging in town that one of the local hotels, I mean, we're not usually booked in town. One of the local hotels usually would put somebody up for the night. I mean, usually. And I know this last time when the power was out and everything, Robin Anthony had put a post on Facebook saying she had 2 extra rooms if anyone was cold and needed a place to stay. So I just personally think, rather than trying to think about putting in a generator and spending money for that, if it's just for like 1 or 2 families,
there's ways to accommodate. If it's for a larger amount of people, I think we should see about talking to the Baptist church and seeing about, for any major things, having a larger facility prepared.
Plus, there's a couple problems with the youth center. The one is a generator. So to answer your question, I think we spent like $8,000 on this generator. So you're going to be, looking in that same range.
I thought because it's such a much smaller building that it might be
The
less.
thing is, this is, it was only a 12K. I mean, you might save a little bit, but to really go down to a generator that's smaller, it's not like you're going to cut it from 8,000 to 2,000 or anything. It's not going to be saving that type of money.
Hundreds, not thousands.
Right. The second thing is, and we've had this discussion over the years, although the building is a great 3-season building, it's not a great winter building. In these temperatures, that building with the heating system that's in it, which is just that single monitor, struggles to get much above 50 to 60 degrees. So it's warming for skating. I don't think I'd want to stay in there for days on end.
Understood.
In being prepared, there's nothing wrong with that, but I've been in the fire department for 43 years. There's been multiple power outages, excluding the ice storm. I can rarely remember ever anybody
Needing that kind of.
never people. I mean, during the ice storm, we were working, putting generators in for people that were sitting in their houses freezing. They wouldn't go out and go somewhere. They just assume stay home. People are proud. They want to be there. So being prepared is great, but reinventing the wheel for people that aren't going to show up. I mean, we never,
That's what I like to
in
do.
firehouse since I've been there, we have never had anybody come and stay. But nobody ever came other than like when when the police department and the fire department were here, they stayed at the fire, they were the only one. I mean, nobody was staying at the firehouse. It's just something to think about. Having great plans, but just
I think
stay
most,
home. They just assume sit in their house and be cold. They don't want to go sleep on a cot in the middle of the firehouse or wherever. Just throwing that out.
most people could probably stay with neighbors or whatever, or friends, or, rather than.
Don't get me wrong, being prepared is great. It's just people are proud they stay home. If you're going to try to do a lot for people that aren't going to show up, it's a good intent, but people, they have never came to the firehouse ever. I mean, figuratively speaking.
Thank you. That's good information. That, I just wanted to have this conversation
Sure.
and talk about these things. And so okay, well, if it hasn't been an issue in 40-something years, then
Not that we're saying.
I guess we're not going to spend $8,000 on a generator. Maybe only 7.
I think there's other options.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, just the plan.
Yeah.
If you have the plan to get the points towards grants.
Paul, does anyone else have anything they want to say about emergency preparedness? Okay, policy on naming public spaces. We had talked about if you've worked for the town X number of years and your family asks us, I guess if you can ask us too if you want, but the town will try to name a road or a public space after you. So the question is, what is the year number, basically, is the question. I think that's basically the question. Do we want to 20 years, 25, 30? Do we want to make a policy? Do we not want to have a?
I do think we need one, and I do think it should be related to years of service. But what that year would be, I don't have a number in mind, but.
My opinion on it, but
50.
Well, again, it all comes down to the circumstances. Because if we had somebody come in and donate $500,000 and say, here, take this money to rehab your park, well, I don't think any of us are going to have a problem in saying, hey, this is the John Doe Park if somebody donated $500,000 towards redoing a whole new park. But if that same token, if somebody necessarily worked at any one of our departments for 20 years, and then they say, hey, we want the park named after our family member. Well, what's the association with that family member with the park? Are we naming it just to name an area? Like, sometimes it has to be looked at an individual case-by-case basis, and I don't think we can necessarily have just a flat policy on it, because, you know, if Calvin's worked for the highway department for 20 years, he was a great employee, but, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, Don, I don't see you saying, I want the park named Calvin Stevens Park. It just doesn't make sense.
Because you're paid for your service.
Right.
Anything you do above and beyond that, like when you take the canoes, his own canoe for the beaver dam, he wasn't paid for that, but he did it because he wanted to.
You know, if there was a, you know, maybe Calvin's thing when he was here, you know, was the fishing area at the beach, and he redid that, you know, to say, all right, well, he put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and we're going to name that area, you know, the Stevens fishing area. Well, I understand something like that, but, you know, I think it's a case-by-case basis on what we have to come. So I don't know if there's a one size fits all policy when it comes to that.
I kind of think leave everything the way it's named and do the memorial wall. Then anybody that wants to be on it, whether they work for the town or not.
That's next.
Okay.
And obviously, yes, a highway department employee, I mean, we would try to name a road after them if their family came to us and asked.
But then do we change somebody else's road name and then have people upset? It's like the road's already named, so you kind of get into sticky situations.
I don't know, I mean, if people, I don't know how attached people are to Juniper Hill Road name, you know, a lot of these names are not Brookside Acres, or whatever. You know, I don't think people are too emotionally invested in that name.
Well, I
What
think
is the process with 911 and the county and everything to change road names? I mean, I don't know.
I looked into it just briefly, you know, to change, what I was told by a supervisor is to change the name of this road would be easy. Or to change the name of this road.
You mean Court Circle or whatever we call it.
Community Circle,
Yeah.
Yep.
Because there's no residences on it. That's one of the big things.
Yeah, and the places you named are all places that were developments, and the developers filed those names for the area. You know, so, because we had the one over here by the A&W that had to be filed twice, because first time the guy used a name that was not what he wanted. So there is some paperwork to it, especially if they start playing well, that's not exactly what I wanted, I want to change it to this now. It does happen.
So I have heard that it is, you know, a lot of bureaucratic rigmarole to change a road name. The answer I got the other day was it's pretty easy, but I guess I need to look into it more. I don't have there's obviously some level of bureaucracy you have to get through. How in depth that is, I'm not sure.
Get rid of the town of Wilmington, put Whiteface.
Stevens Mountain.
So it may sound trivial, but just something to consider. When we put up the banners for the veterans, you would be amazed at how many people were very, very particular. Well, the business banners too, but with the veteran ones, I want this banner in this spot and blah, blah, blah. And I had told people right away, if however the employees hang them, I'm not putting them in certain spots. And I had somebody say, you cannot put this person and this person's banner beside each other because they hated each other. I swear to God, I had that happen. And I was like, you're kidding me. And so just keep that in mind, that if you're renaming a road and somebody lives on that road that didn't like that person, you're going to hear about it.
Point taken. Do we want to set a number of years where we'll be open to the conversation and try to accommodate the family's request? We don't have to. It's just, I thought.
I do think that should be required, because then it shows that they have put some longevity into the town. And that would be a reasonable request for them to have, ask for something to represent their years of service, but I don't know if the number. Well, we did 30 for Greg, but I don't know if that's too high. I don't know what the rest of the board would be thinking if they even are considering that.
I could go along with 30. I can go along with a little lower.
I think it's all on the individual person. I mean, you could work somewhere for 50 years and somebody could work there for 10 and did a super job or gave extra all the time or whatever. And I mean, it's hard to say. But yearly, I don't know if that's a good way to go. But just my opinion.
That's what I'm asking for.
You got it.
I agree with Randy, because you could have an exemplary employee that went above and beyond and just did a bang up job on everything they did and came in after hours and didn't ask for overtime and took projects on their own. And you could have a 30-year employee that skated by.
Case by case is probably the best way to go,
Yeah.
if you're gonna do that stuff.
I don't know if I want to say indifferent, but I do kind of agree that it seems more of a case by case thing than necessarily making, I know it's not necessarily arbitrary to say a number of years, but I think case by case makes more sense.
But naming the park after Greg, we just kept hearing, well, what about all the other town employees? So I guess where we'll leave it is, if other families want us to try to name something after them, ask us and we'll try to accommodate that, or we'll consider it. Well, I guess that's where
Well, you
we'll
know,
leave
when
it for now.
arenas and libraries and stuff like that change the names of places, it's because the facility has been given a major donation to have it changed to that. They don't just go and decide to
And
change
Rich
it.
Paul Smith College did it.
Didn't they refuse?
Pardon?
They refused, right? They
Yes,
refused.
They just named the
The person
library
that was
after.
not going to buy in that college.
I have one question. So if you're gonna set precedent by name, I got nothing against Greg, I knew Greg my whole entire life and most of his family, but if you're going to name the park after Greg, and then let's say Paula comes here and wants you to name, but 3 of you people don't like Paula's father, Granny, why shouldn't he be given equal right to have something
That's
named?
what,
So if you're gonna use it on a case by case, not that there's anything wrong with that, but if you get a voting board that doesn't particularly like that person,
Or doesn't know that person,
what's that?
or doesn't know that person.
I mean,
Because they're
you're
getting younger and younger.
you're making a law that's supposed to carry on for,
That's why it was a bad idea to set precedent.
well, no, we're not making a law, we're making a policy.
well, then you're making a policy that's setting precedent to review everyone, and if you don't like that person, then they're potentially not gonna get reviewed. Well, why are they not as good as the person that gave 10 or 30 or 50? Just putting it out
That's why I'm trying to put a number on it so that we can narrow it down to, you have had to have put in so much.
That's why it was a bad idea to name one particular thing and not a generalized area that anybody could be a part of. And this is what both the public had stated, I had stated, but we did not
What I
move
think
forward
we
in that
should really
direction.
do is reopen this argument.
We're not, I'm just
Messy.
stating, it's in this discussion.
There's a really simple solution. Don't name anything after any particular person and get rid of all the roads, Lenny Preston, Bill Huber, what are all the other roads named after people? Manning Road.
Yep.
Why when we changed the
John Bliss.
911 stuff, we had to change the road, some of the roads for that. And then you go Quaker Mountain and there's Manning Road and there's Ferry Terrace and Quaker Mountain run around the back. Well, when it was changed, they got rid of Fairview Terrace, but kept Manning Road. Why wasn't it Quaker Mountain Road and keep Fairview Terrace? Who's Manning? Because the next generation and the generation after that are not going to know who any of these people are. I don't know who Bill Huber was, and I didn't know
You
Lenny
own a big
Preston.
farm over here.
I know that.
Okay, yeah, but generations to come, there's
Right,
going to
yeah.
be people moving here. I think it's just nice to have a nice name for the road. It doesn't have to be some person's name. You know,
I think
that's
it's
the
been so
easiest
long
solution.
since
Pardon?
forward good progress has happened in this town, to waste time on something like this to me is foolish.
It's just get rid of all the
There's a
names.
lot of stuff behind that needs to get taken care of around here, and that, to me, my own personal opinion, that's not one of them.
No. And then-
I strongly.
I didn't expect this go ahead.
I strongly agree with a memorial wall.
Okay.
Because then it opens up to people like Mr. McGreevy that's been volunteer this time for 42 years, and Charlie Terry 45 years, and Marcel Bruce, and the list goes on and on and on.
Or I can go back to the fire department to Delbert Hosley, or I can go to Cal Stevens, or I can go to, Jerry Saltmarsh, who passed away while he was still on the job for the town. And I can go to all those people that, lost their life while they're on the job and everything else, and you can include all of them. You can include everybody, and you're not just doing just one person.
Because when you name a road or something after one person, because that person you felt deserves that, you're slighting all the other people.
That's why we
who deserve it.
want,
Who put in their time.
Yeah, so
Can
you
I-
just don't do it.
Cliff, your point is well taken. I expected this conversation to last about maybe 5 minutes and we would come up with a number and move on. I did not expect it to go in this direction. But
Sorry.
I think we will, it's okay, it's fine. You know, I want people to have their say, but that's the danger of people having their say is things go in a, I thought we were going one way and 15 minutes later, we're renaming Lenny Preston Road. Memorial Wall.
That was me.
Yeah. Any board? I hear a lot of support for the memorial wall. I think you have thoughts about where you'd want to put it. I think the beach would be a good place to put it.
I thought, my personal thought was over by, in the Preston Field next to the, is it the bicentennial burial thing? The
Time capsule?
Yes.
Maybe like a bench, and if anybody's in Lake Placid, they go over behind the Lake Placid Firehouse. Last year, they did a similar thing with a flagpole. Something like that could be nice. People would have a place to go and kind of, if they wanted to honor their significant other, whoever it may be.
And we
That's
talked about
just,
it about
there's, I think there's lots of viable options.
that. We talked about
Tina,
Flagpole, yeah, and a lot of that stuff, it's gonna be virtually no money to the taxpayer. I mean, stuff like that, people, these bigger companies that are doing that are donating that. There's lots of resources available.
And actually, to kind of go along with that, I know that Tina and I talked a little bit about it, and when you guys were talking before about the signs down at the beach, you know, for Greg Lynch and everything, and Festival Field still does not have any sign. The number of people that have no idea where Festival Field is because you drive right past it and there's no sign. So it could easily, as well, up by the road more, have an actual sign that says Preston Festival Field and have that as part of the memorial and, you know, incorporate all of that together so that it's a nice looking, attractive area. So that's also an option that it probably.
Lots of new people know it as Preston Field.
Exactly, right.
I
There's
still
just
call
no
it
sign
T-ball field,
there, yeah.
but that's what it'll always
Right.
be named.
how do we want to go forward with the memorial wall? I'm
I
asking
think
you,
you should let a community member take charge of that and you guys support it.
that's fine. That would be my preference. Yeah, that's yet another group meeting in here? Or is that one?
I don't think it doesn't,
doesn't
I
have to
don't
be
think it
here.
has to be.
Okay.
I think you just need one determined person to organize and orchestrate.
And come with some plans and.
Yeah, I vote Tina, that was originally.
No.
And I think
I would help you, Tina, if you did, if you did spirit.
Okay. So go forward. I think you have support from the board to go forward and let us know when you want to talk, when you want to present something to the board, or when you need something from the board, or, you know, if you want to come and give us a report of where you're at in 3 months or 6 months.
I'd be happy to be that liaison to,
Okay.
like, be
Okay. The only other thing, regarding 4th of July, I want to say it is the 250th anniversary of the country. Wilmington doesn't usually do something for the 4th of July, but I think we should this year due to the fact that it's the 250th. So I just wanted to broach that topic in public. All the ideas are, the ideas are, the same ideas every holiday, every children's Christmas party, it's a parade, fireworks, concert. I wish there were other ideas, other ways to celebrate the event. So I'm open to any ideas, and I just wanted the board to discuss it. It's just a discussion. Okay, executive
We'll
session.
come back to that.
I don't know what day it is.
4th of July? Oh, what day of the week?
I'm looking right now.
Either Thursday or Friday,
Saturday.
Saturday.
This year. Are there events that day? Like,
Comprehensive plan
Jay
committee's
and Lake
meeting.
Placid both have a lot going on that day.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it'll be kind of hard to compete with two towns that have long.
Not looking to compete, I'm
No,
just
no, I don't
looking to
mean
do something.
compete. I didn't mean it like
Maybe we
that.
could do it a different
I
weekend,
meant because people
Columbus
have
Day.
it in other areas.
or the night of the concert, that Thursday before there, make the concert extra special or something. You know,
Friday night.
advertise it big and.
So it's on a Saturday?
The other
I
option
think we
too
could do
is,
something.
on June 20th, I know it's early, but the whiskey run and festival, maybe incorporating something more that the town could be involved in the whiskey festival and the history and doing something extra special on that day.
Yeah, that would work too.
I think unless there's a member of the public who really has something they want to say, I'm going to motion to go into executive session to talk about appointments. Does anyone have something that, Diane, to get off your chest?
Not anymore.
It's off or?
Actually, I only have one more thing.
Okay,
And that's a huge thank you, that I really, really appreciate the format tonight and the fact that you allowed us open discussion, and I really appreciate that, so thank you very much.
you're welcome.
It
You're welcome.
feels better to be on well.
It does, I appreciate that.
It's harder when there's a big crowd and it's tense and we're trying to discuss something and people are shouting out, and that things do get derailed, and we don't want these meetings to go 3 hours. So we want to keep them to 2 hours, short and sweet.
Okay, time to go then.
Okay. All right. So motion to go into executive session.
I'll make it second, whatever.
Okay, all in favor? See you guys. Thanks for coming.
Are you going to do anything after executive session, or you're waiting for the regular meeting?
Probably just appoint Emily Doyle to the Board of Assessment Review. Emily Pincombe, the Board of Assessment Review.
Do we even need-
On the tape. So,
Do we even need to go to executive session for this?
Yeah.
you have to, okay.
We don't have to.
No, it's
Well,
not, it's
if we want to
not,
just do that, and I think we should, really.
because you got some other stuff, okay.
Well, it's an appointment, so appointments.
This
Jerry's still
conference
hanging in
will
there.
now be recorded.
Jerry.
Hi, Jerry. May I have a motion to come back into regular session? Is there a second? Second. Discussion? All in favor? Carried. Good conversations, and we will make the appointments at the February regular monthly meeting. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Make it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Not too bad.
No.
Not 10 PM.